What if the one person you trusted most led you straight into the arms of danger? This is the story of Blondine, and nothing is as it seems.
When Blondine entered the forest, she started gathering pretty lilac branches. She was happy to find many of them and enjoyed their lovely smell. As she made her selection, she saw that the ones far away looked even nicer, so she emptied her apron and her hat, which were both full, and filled them again and again. Blondine had been thus busily occupied for about an hour. She began to suffer from the heat and to feel great fatigue. She found the branches of lilacs heavy to carry and thought it was time to return to the palace. She looked around and saw herself surrounded with lilacs. She called Gourmandine, but no one replied. "I've walked farther than I meant to," said Blondine. "I'll go back right away, even though I'm very tired. Gourmandine will hear me and will surely come to meet me." Blondine walked on rapidly for some time, but she could not find the boundaries of the forest. Many times she called anxiously upon Gourmandinette, but he did not respond, and at last she became terribly frightened. "What will happen to me, being all alone in this huge forest? What will my poor papa think when I do not return? And Gourmandinette, how will he dare go back to the palace without me? He will be blamed. Maybe he will be punished, and it's all because I left my carriage to pick lilacs. I'm a poor girl. If the wolves don't eat me tonight, I'll die from hunger and thirst in this forest." Blondine cried a lot, and then fell to the ground near a big tree. She cried for a long time, until her tiredness made her stop. She put her head on her bunch of lilacs and slept peacefully. Blondine's Awakening. Beau Mignon. Blondine slept calmly all night. No scary animals came to disturb her sleep. She did not suffer from the cold and awakened at a late hour in the morning. She rubbed her eyes, much surprised to see herself surrounded by trees, instead of being in her room at the palace, lying on her own bed. She called her nurse, and a soft mewing was the only response. Surprised and almost scared, she looked around and saw a beautiful white cat at her feet, gazing kindly at her and still mewing sadly. "Ah, pretty puss, how beautiful you are!" cried Blondine. She gently placed her hand on the soft, snow-white fur of the cat. "I'm so glad to see you, lovely cat," she said. "You'll lead me to your home, won't you? I'm very hungry, and I don't have the strength to walk much farther without food." Blondine had scarcely said these words when the white cat mewed again and pointed with her paw to a small package neatly wrapped in fine white linen lying nearby. She opened the package and found it contained bread and butter, which she found delicious. She gave the breadcrumbs to the cat, and it happily ate them. After their simple meal, Blondine leaned over to her little companion and said gently, "Thanks, pretty cat, for the breakfast you have given me. Now, can you take me to my papa? He must be very worried about me being gone," Blondine asked the cat. Beau Mignon, as Blondine named the cat, shook her head and mewed sadly. "Ah, you understand me, Beau Mignon," said Blondine. "I beg you, please have mercy on me and take me to a house before I die from hunger, cold, and fear in this huge forest." Beau Mignon looked at the princess fixedly and made a sign with her little graceful white head, which seemed to say, "I understand you." She stood up, took a few steps forward, and paused to see if Blondine would follow her. "I am here, Beau Mignon. I am following you gladly," said Blondine. "But how can we get through these dense bushes? I see no path." Beau Mignon didn't answer,
but leaped lightly into the bushes, which opened on its own to let Blondine and Beaumignon pass through, then closed up immediately after them. Blondine walked for about half an hour. As she went further, the forest became less dense. The grass became finer, and there were more flowers. She saw many beautiful birds singing sweetly and graceful squirrels jumping along the tree branches. Blondine, who had no doubt that she was about to leave the forest and see her dear father again, was enchanted with all that she saw. Blondine wanted to stop and gather the beautiful wildflowers, but Beaumignon kept moving forward steadily and meowed sadly whenever Blondine slowed down. After about an hour, Blondine saw an elegant castle. Beaumignon led her to the Golden Gate. However, Blondine did not know how to enter. There was no bell, and the gate was closed. Beaumignon had disappeared, and Blondine found herself alone again. Bonne Biche. Beaumignon had entered through a small passage, seemingly made just for him, and likely alerted someone in the castle, as the gate opened without Blondine having to call for it. She entered the courtyard, but saw no one. The door of the castle opened of itself. Blondine entered the vestibule, which was of rare white marble. All the doors of the castle then opened just like the first one, and the princess walked through a series of beautiful rooms. Finally, in the back of a lovely salon furnished with blue and gold, Blondine noticed a white deer lying on a bed of fine, fragrant grasses. Beaumignon stood near her. The pretty deer saw Blondine, arose, and approached her. "You are most welcome, Blondine," she said. "My son Beaumignon and I have expected you for a long time." At these words, Blondine was much frightened. "Take courage, princess. You are with friends. I know the king your father, and I love him, and I love you also." "Oh, madam," said Blondine, "if you know the king my father, I pray you to take me to him. My absence must make him very sad."
"My dear Blondine," said the deer, whose name was Bonne Biche, sighing, "it is not in my power to take you to your father. You are in the hands of the magician of the forest of lilacs. I myself am under his control, as his power is greater than mine. But I can send gentle dreams to your father, comforting him about your safety and letting him know that you are with me."
"Oh, madam," Blondine exclaimed, overwhelmed with sadness, "will I never see my beloved father again? My poor father." "Dear Blondine, do not worry about the future. Indeed, wisdom and prudence are always rewarded. You will see your father again, but not now. In the meantime, be good and peaceful. Beaumignon and I will do everything we can to make you happy."
Blondine sighed heavily and shed a few tears. Then she realized that showing such sadness was a poor way to repay all of Bonne Biche's kindness. She decided to control herself and be cheerful instead. Bonne Biche showed her the apartment they had prepared for her. The bedroom was decorated with rose-colored silk with gold embroidery. The furniture was covered with white velvet and decorated with silk in the most brilliant colors. All kinds of animals, birds, and butterflies were embroidered in an excellent way. Next to Blondine's room was a small library. 2 magnificent portraits, one showing a young and incredibly beautiful woman, and the other a handsome young man, were hung on the walls. Their clothing suggested that they were of royal family. "Whose portraits are these, madam?" said Blondine to Bonne Biche. "I am forbidden to answer that question, dear Blondine. You will know later. But this is the hour for dinner. Come, Blondine, I'm sure you are hungry. Blondine was, in fact, almost dying of hunger. She followed Bonne Biche, and they entered the dining room, where she saw a table strangely served. An enormous cushion made of black satin was placed on the floor for Bonne Biche. On the table before her there was a vase filled with the finest herbs, fresh and nutritious. Near this vase there was a golden bucket filled with fresh and clear water. Opposite Bonne Biche was a small stool for Beau Mignon, and in front of him was a golden bowl filled with small fried fish. Beside it was a bowl made of rich crystal filled with fresh milk.
Between Beau Mignon and Bonne Biche there was a plate set for Blondine. Her chair, made of carved ivory and covered with red velvet. In front of Blondine there was a gold plate filled with delicious soup made from young chicken. Her glass and water bottle were crafted from carved rock crystal, and a muffin was placed beside her. Her fork and spoon were made of gold, and her napkin was of linen, finer than anything she had ever seen. Blondine was hungry, so she ate of all and found all excellent.
After dinner, Bonne Biche and Beau Mignon took the princess into the garden, where she discovered the most delicious fruits and beautiful pathways. After a delightful walk, Blondine returned to the castle with her new friends, feeling quite tired. Bonne Biche suggested that she rest for the night, and Blondine happily agreed.
Blondine entered her room and found 2 gazelles waiting for her to help her. They skillfully helped her undress, placed her in bed, and then sat by her bedside to watch over her. Blondine soon fell peacefully asleep, but not before she thought of her father and shed bitter tears over their cruel separation. Blondine's second awakening. Blondine slept deeply, and when she woke up, she found herself completely transformed. Indeed, it seemed to her she could not be the same person. She was much taller, her intellect was sharper, and her knowledge had expanded. She remembered several books that she thought she had read during her sleep. She was certain she had been writing, drawing, singing, and playing the piano and harp.
She looked around, however, and realized that the room was the same one Bonne Biche had brought her to, and where she had fallen asleep. Excited and worried, she stood up and ran to the mirror. She saw that she was much grown, and she found herself charming, 100 times more beautiful than when she retired the night before. In short, Blondine thought herself the most beautiful person she had ever seen.
Trembling, almost frightened, she quickly dressed herself and hurried to find Bonne Biche, whom she discovered in the same room where she had first met her. Bonne Biche, she exclaimed, I beg you, please explain to me the change that I see and feel in myself. Last night I went to sleep as a child. This morning I woke up and found myself a young lady. Is this an illusion, or have I truly grown and developed during the night?
Yes, my dear Blondine, today you are 14 years old. However, you have peacefully slept for 7 years. My son Beau Mignon and I wanted to spare you the burden of early studies. When you first entered the castle, you knew nothing, not even how to read. I put you to sleep for 7 years, and Beau Mignon and I spent this time instructing you while you slept. I see the doubt in your eyes, my dear princess. Come to the library and reassure yourself on this point.
Blondine followed Bonne Biche to the small room. She hurried to the piano started playing, and found that she played remarkably well. Then she tried the harp and produced the most enchanting sounds, singing beautifully. She picked up her pencil and brushes and effortlessly drew and painted. Her handwriting was clear and elegant. Looking at the many books in the room, she knew she had read them all. Surprised and delighted, she hugged Bonne Biche tightly, embraced Beau Minon gently, and said to both of them, "Oh, my dear, true, good friends, what a debt of gratitude do I owe you for having thus watched over my childhood and developed my intellect and my heart. I feel how much I am improved in every respect, and I owe it all to you."
Bonne Biche returned her hugs, and Beau Minon gave her a gentle kiss on the hand. After the first happy moments had passed, the Blondine looked down and said shyly, "Do not think me ungrateful, my dear good friends, if I ask you to add one more benefit to those you have already provided for me. Tell me something about my father. Does he still suffer from my absence? Is he happy since he has lost me?"
Dear Blondine, your fears on this point are natural and shall be removed as soon as possible. Look into this mirror, Blondine, and you will see the king, your father, and all that has passed since you left the palace. Blondine lifted her eyes to the mirror and looked into her father's palace. The king seemed very anxious and was walking back and forth. He appeared to be expecting someone.
Queen Forbette came in and told him that Blondine had taken control of the ostriches despite Gourmandinet's warnings. They got scared and ran off into the forest of lilacs, overturning the carriage. Blondine was thrown over the barrier of the forest.
She explained that Gourmandinet had gone mad with fear and sadness, and that she had sent him home to his parents. The king was angry at this news. He ran to the lilac forest and had to be stopped by force from throwing himself over the boundary to search for his beloved Blondine.
They took him to the palace where he cried in pain, calling out for his dear Blondine, his beloved child. In the end, overwhelmed with sadness, he fell asleep and had a dream about seeing Blondine at the castle of Bonne Biche and Beau Minon. Bonne Biche reassured him that Blondine would eventually come back to him and have a peaceful, happy childhood.
The mirror turned misty, and everything disappeared. Then it cleared, and Blondine saw her father again. He looked old, with white hair like snow and a sad expression on his face. He held a small portrait of Blondine in his hand, on which tears fell as he kissed it often. The king was alone. Blondine didn't see the queen or the brunette. Poor Blondine cried bitterly.
"Oh," said she, "why is my dear father alone? Where is the queen? Where's Brunette?" "The queen," said Bonne Biche, "didn't seem sad when they thought you were gone, so your father grew angry and suspicious of her. He sent her back to her father, King Turbulent, who locked her in a tower where she died from anger. Everyone thought you were dead."
As for your sister Brunette, she became incredibly wicked and unbearable. Last year, the king quickly arranged her marriage to Prince Violent, who took on the responsibility of trying to change her cruel behavior. The prince was serious. Brunette realized that her wickedness was keeping her from happiness, so she began to try to correct her faults. You'll meet her again someday, dear Blondine.
Blondine thanked Bonne Biche warmly for the information. She felt compelled to ask, "But when will I see my father and sister?" But she was afraid of appearing ungrateful and too anxious to leave the castle of her good friends. So she decided to wait for a more suitable opportunity to ask the question.
The days passed away quietly and pleasantly. Blondine was often busy, but occasionally felt sad. She had no one to talk to except Bonnebiche, who was with her only during classes and meals. Beaumignon couldn't speak and could only communicate through gestures. Blondine walked every day, always accompanied by Beaumignon, who showed her pretty paths and rare flowers.
Bonne Biche had Blondine promise never to leave the park and enter the forest. Blondine had asked her many times why, but Bonne Biche always sighed deeply and warned her, "Blondine, don't ever go into the forest. It's a dangerous place. I hope you never have to go there."
Sometimes Blondine climbed a pavilion built on a hill near the edge of the forest. From there, she gazed with admiration and longing at the beautiful trees, the fragrant flowers, and the countless birds flying and singing and seeming to call her name. "Oh," said she, "why will not Bonne Biche allow me to walk in this beautiful forest? What possible danger can I encounter in that lovely place and under her protection?" Whenever Blondine got lost in these thoughts, Beaumignon, who seemed to understand her feelings, would meow sadly, pulled her dress, and tried to lead her away from the pavilion. Blondine smiled sweetly, followed her gentle companion, and resumed her walk in the lonely park.